Hi everyone, welcome to Friday 21st November 2025 crypto update. Second attempt, managed to delete the first one. Awesome, let's go at some speed then. First things to talk about is the Japanese yen carry trade, where they short yen, buy dollars, and effectively use that to borrow cheaply in yen and invest in the US stock exchange, so they pay 0.5 instead of 4.5%. However, that is subject to currency risk, which I guess no one cares about these days, and the yen is up 11% since April. US is the chances of US rate cuts seem to change very regularly. It was pretty high earlier this month, and now it went down earlier this week, and now it's been back up after some more Fed comments. But fundamentally, if the US doesn't cut, the yen could continue to appreciate. However, we've seen, US government, Japanese government tolerance on a weaker yen isn't that much higher than this little range. So we'll have to see if that comes out in practice. Implicit government guarantee until it isn't. However, if you start to unwind this trade and you've taken some losses, you're going to start uninvesting from the various markets. Usually treasury, a bit of stock, just lower your leverage a little bit. So what are we seeing on the SPX that kind of justifies some of this? Not very much. It's still in range, same range it's been until from October, which if you have such a huge rally and then all it can do is range a little bit, it's a 5% range, it's not terrible. That's at the bottom of range, people are panicking, which is wild to me. This is a 3.5 to 1 if you just take the bottom with some room and just aim for the top. And obviously take some off halfway and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess people are panicking because when Nvidia had some of the best results possible, got everything, earnings per share, future predictions, revenue, etc., it only went up a very small amount and then cracked 3.5%. Unless we're expecting 6 to 7% volatility and potentially upside if Nvidia did well, but that's not really playing out. So against good news, the market's crashing. Not crashing. The equity market is just not rising. Having said that, good news and no movement, that's a bit of a worry, but we're at range bottom, so still not so much. And the way this move happened, very aggressive, clearly deleveraging, clearly, there's a bit less liquidity and there's a lot more flightiness. But, we haven't even seen a breakdown. Personally, I think if it starts to go down, you're going to have to start looking quite deep just because of how this run happened. Somewhere around here for 6%, and then I'm quite taken by the idea of this being a magnet at the election point at 12%. And fundamentally, given where the last time it crashed to, if you're a real bear, which I think you have to see, I don't think you can just justify this 27%. But 27% still takes you to the all-time high in 2022, and you know what? It's not so bad. Let's get to the other stuff. I'm doing this video mostly to rubber duck what's going on in the Bitcoin market. Let's take it from the top. We talked about this weekly validation 109 to 111 for a long time and how it played around there a lot. But I mean, Wick, close, retest, Wick again, and then a final close too. That's just a lot. Someone was trying very hard to hold it. And then once they couldn't, well, here we are, right at range bottom just immediately. Absolutely no break. I didn't get to shorting. I didn't switch my brain quick enough. I didn't think it would do this aggressively. But here we are. Deviation above usually means deviation below at best. And we have this deviation. This thing's gone so far, you can wait forever and still get such a good entry. But I don't support catching knives. I don't do that anymore. I don't sit there listening to the bid-ask tape and see when people switch up, though that's obviously still profitable. I think we're in a different market. Well, I think there are different ways to make it in this market. First things first, no higher highs since 106. Just couldn't do it at all. Lost levels, retested, dead. Couldn't even retest it here, dead. So the shorts are eating. Even the most aggressive shorts, like, you know, putting it at local highs, never got caught. And we'll see that. We'll see that with the leverage in a little bit. But yeah, so we've had all of this, and, you know, I tried to long it up here and it just didn't work. I gave it up very quickly because you just don't want to see one candle huge retraces into daily closes, like, you know, like it's nothing. Having said that, there's a bit more volume to start with. You can see these volume candles. I should probably just change it up to a more relevant indicator. So you can see the volume start to show up on the green side on Binance and Coinbase. Let's just keep Coinbase for now. God, this one really irritates me. The fact that it didn't even take the 93.7 high just shows how weak it was, at which point I just should have probably switched to shorts. Just couldn't do it. It was just ridiculous. Lost the range, and we've seen the last time it lost the range, it just died. And here we are. So, died overnight. Asians were unhappy, Asian market. Found a little bit of support. You can see this 4 hourly support, this block of 4 1-hour candles. We've seen it repeated here and here. It seems to be the trend where it starts to try and flat bottom. Someone's trying to hold it at whatever level they're holding it at, and then they do a little bounce. In this case, there was a big wick first. This all happened in 15 minutes, but this is all news. But effectively, you know, news sometimes change the dynamic. You know, marks a bottom, changes people's perceptions. Everyone's always focused on the down, then news, you know, gets you some buying, then changes the texture. So, unless it completely retraces. I would say that provides potential, and so that's why I am now watching this. As you can see, like, I'll do the half hour, it's even better. Straight down, pretty big candle, pretty full, and then boop, straight back up. And we can just measure this against, we'll do F in a second, but if you just look across the piece, pretty identical. This is a bit stronger, but, you know, they all had the same reaction, and that's because of all things, among other comments, the New York Fed's Williams says he still sees room for a further adjustment in the near term to move closer to the neutral rate, i.e. the chances of rate cuts have increased. So, you know, chance I'll have to unwind my absolutely risk-free Japan yen, you know, trade decreases. Having said that, there's probably 2 points to note. It was a news trade, and potentially we're looking at first point of supply. I think this is the first large volume node. And for Bitcoin from this drop, yeah, we had a little bit, but as you can see, these volume candles didn't really exist. This is the first one in a long time, and I know a lot of people in crypto don't pay attention to volume, particularly as a lot of the volume is down CMA, and I really need to figure out a way to see that better and see where the TradFi degens are. But until then, this is what we have got. This is already getting very long as a video, and I don't like long videos. I get bored myself, so we'll move on quickly. Principally, potential Wycoff. I don't believe all of Wycoff, but I do believe this kind of first point of support, and this looks to me like the first point. It could be the last point, but it is an indication it's time to start paying attention to buy long. My last video I purported suggesting buying, you know, 85 to 87k, and if you're really aggressive, 92, 93. I didn't see justification 92, 93. There was no higher highs on the low time frame. Didn't work. I mean, there's just no point. Still here we have this. I mean, still here we're under the cosh, and you'd kind of hope something like this and then go right, but nothing. Not yet. So it's still early. Actually, I'm just going to leave that because I really like that line. So principally, it's time to start paying attention. So weekly, look, it gave no regard to this range. Over the top, straight through to the bottom. People are panicking. That is a right time to start thinking about getting involved, because if it is oversold, even if you don't catch the bottom, you're going to be ahead of the majority of the market, and it's likely to retrace to your position. I don't think now's the time for the peak of bottom. I think you can absolutely load in here. Personally, I'm looking at this as where I will take a blind stab, like 73, 74, probably just under here, so like 74-ish. Or short-term strength, low time frame strength, which we saw the first point of supply. First point of supply, I will show you the chart in a sec, but the first point of supply does not mean jump in. First point of supply means someone's interested, and they may or may not be enough, usually not, but they do kind of change direction travel. But I will just wait, like everyone, to see what happens here. I'm gonna see this. If we break this mean trend line, if we get higher highs, I'll get in. I mean, look, even if I buy 44, 45, 46, yeah, it's a long way down here, but it's a hell of a long way back up here. You still get a good trade. No need to rush. But yeah, that's pretty standard. Over the top, under the bottom. That's what I would think. And I think I'm willing to take a loss on a gamble around 74-ish. Let me set an alarm. That's it for Bitcoin. So low time frame strength, or wait. This is a bit strong. It is news, but sometimes news can trade it. Right now, it's just following the SPX, which hasn't even moved. Just, takes all the downsides. Great. F. I have previously mentioned my distaste for F in downtrends. It does not listen. It does not seem to respect. Oh, this was something I was mulling over. But it needs to actually get back. Until it doesn't matter. I'll take it out because it's a disturbing for now. Like, my distaste for F on the high time frame is clear. We had this potential, like support line 2800. Oh, look at this. All of these wicks out here. Let's just draw a horizontal line. You can see all of these retests. Oh yeah, look at this. This is where it got stalled up before it finally went straight through. No respect. And that's the F experience. Always through your levels in a downturn. Always first. Always not strong. I think that's true today. I'm looking to a stable base. And that's Bitcoin. One last thing to mention, look, some crypto strategic funds are gonna have to liquidate, which is gonna drive a TWAP selling. You don't want to get in the way. So you want to look for low time frame strength and have stops and just take your losses. May take 2, 3, 4 attempts, but there's probably upside there once they're done. Very hard to know how they're going to play that. I don't have insight into that. Back to F. Yeah, look. This is definitely not detailed enough. Back to F. Yeah, look. Runs through the support like it ain't a thing. It's like roughly there. I mean, even potentially here, depending how you want to feel. Not a thing, and it's just wild, man. So where do you even buy? Yeah, you can look at the first. I don't recommend it. Oh yeah. But if you were going to, a good, let's see what happened to the TWAP on Bitcoin. That was really strong. Yeah, through all the TWAP layers. This TWAP isn't for miles. But if you're going to get involved, I would have a bit late to the party. I would say the highest TWAP point is usually the best. I mean, this is a TWAP node. Bybit, it was on Bybit, it was right here, right at the bottom. I don't use Bybit, not going to claim that. So I still think it's there to play for. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, actually. But I'm just not a fan of it. So if you have to go, try, just appreciate you may take a bath, or you may just get a huge bounce, huge risk. 2,500, 2,600 potentially. Let's hit that, so 2,500. I'd be more interested in a reclaim back above 2,800, or something like, where's the box tool? All right, let's just use this. Something really terrible. Something like 20. This is really far. So I'm a big proponent of ETH on the upside. So something like this. Aggressively, or very aggressively also in the other way, and just look for it to really, really go down into, you know, finally, into this region. We saw this wick. I think anything down to here, honestly. We saw this last time and then it came up. That was great. I mean, like, yeah, you could have really bid that. That support up here, we've just got a lot of people whose position is here and no TradFi buyers. So I don't love it. But 1,900 to 2,200 or a reclaim. Or a reclaim of, let's call it 28.10. High time frame. Then play it aggressively. By waiting, you're already better off than anyone who tried to long up here. Okay, those two. Sol. I really like Sol. I did not actually take this trade because I'm focused on Bitcoin, and then I don't want to split out. And since I think Bitcoin is my barometer, the fact that Sol's already here makes me less inclined to take it. I don't think Sol runs the market. So whenever Bitcoin bottoms is when I will start looking for my Sol longs, or at 93. I don't think there's any issue if you want the higher risk of just buying here with like some small portion in a spot account and go stake it. Because I mean, it did reach what the lines we're talking about, 121, 122. And that's a 1-to-1. That's, you know, a 1.2 to 1 against 0 just to reclaim the range high. Not bad. Not bad. Having said that, hard to say no to a range bottom. We didn't have a deviation. I mean, I guess it depends how you draw this range. It's not very clean, but it's been within this for some time. This is the kind-ish of area that it bounces. If you're really, really aggressive, someone will consider that down here is where you have to buy. I think 120 is fine if you want the risk. Cool. Now let's move on to other things very briefly, if they give me a chance. All right. Yeah, I mean, liquidations were very, very high for very little moves before, but we've only added like a bill after having broken down. That seems not reasonable. You can see, I mean, 1 minute candles at this velocity, very important. But, you know, it's news. So, this is where I think the edge is. For me, at least. Looking at Coinbase, you can see the respect given to Coinbase buy walls. I always think there's a lot hidden underneath these, and, you know, regardless the market responds. Very, very, very rarely does it just punch on through and just continue going. Usually it's used as a bounce point. Sometimes it goes through, sometimes it just taps. Depends how strong it is. Your mileage may vary. I won't switch to Binance, but Binance has been on plunge protection, really loading up buy orders. But it's not been working very well. I think the real value is, I think the real value is with Coinbase buy walls, and you can see plunge protection is starting to come in again. And this one was very interesting. Look, at the point it's just nestling here. Obviously, this one's cooked. But then the next big one, they wicked it through, so he would have still been fine. But that does not show a lot of strength to have done that. Came back, just tapped it. And, yeah, so if you want to play the buy the dip game, I suggest you just layer above one of these walls. Take your pick, and you will most likely, at the very least, have an escape. 75, huh? Let me just take note of that, because I may use that one. And F, which I think responds less well to walls, has actually been responding okay to these now. I mean, look, you get a little bounce, you can put your stop here, and then, you know, try again. This one went through, and then it came back. So, yeah. These are all new-ish. I mean, let's go higher time frame. I think that's really... I don't have the best subscription on this, but I do need it. The newish walls have less value. Always do. I wish we could get more data, but the place I used to use is gone, and this is what I have. The newish walls are a bit less useful, but, you know, could bounce off any one of these if someone's going to layer these. So, like, I kind of feel if you're taking a shot, these are your guides, more than the chart. Just layer above this, give some space, and if it runs through, get out. Less good than Bitcoin on walls, but still effective. I'm still waiting for a bit more to get involved. That's it. So, oh gosh, here we go. Let me just use this definition. This website's atrocious. Preliminary support. So, is this preliminary support on Bitcoin? Let me change this. If it works, it does. Yes. On the high time frame, no. But on the low time frame, you know, high volume candle, interest, bit of a bounce, potential. Doesn't, so just worth noting. Potential, low time frame, PS, Wycoff. But as we can see from this wonderful chart, potential support is just helping you define your range, and could get more selling. All right, what other things do we have here that we haven't talked about? Yeah, this is the worst. Leverage on a coin's basis is so high, and as we're going down, either people are closing or longs are getting run through, and this is the main reason I'm really worried about getting involved, except for scalps. So much to the short side, so much to the long side. I mean, we can see from funding rates that it's weighted very heavily to shorts now, But that doesn't mean a lot of this on the run-up wasn't longs. In fact, you can see this tick up as this ticked up. So now it may be weighted short. But there's a lot of longs potentially still to get run. Then you have late shorts, which will provide us our bounce. That's just too much. It's same on F. It's like you had this big dip and everyone just loaded up. I mean, they were like, oh, it's definitely going to go up. And this is why Sol may have a small advantage. It doesn't have that. So what is it? BTC F leverage too high, albeit short weighted now with some historic longs, which seem to be getting flushed. Sol doesn't have this. The other form of leverage we need to mention is the crypto strategic reserves, which clearly are underwater. A lot of them bought publicly. We have their prices. Sailor is not underwater, but I imagine a good percentage, if not the majority, of others are underwater, and some are having to liquidate, which is just going to create your TWAP. Don't get in the way of that. Wait for some short-term strength, or like very, very critical levels where you feel you can take a shot. Having money is very important to actually win. And we can see that, the selling on F and the selling on Bitcoin is just being continuous and aggressive. Net inflows bring us back to September days. And we've had a lot of cashing out since then. So yeah, from OGs. Man, Sailor's at risk. Anyway, that's kind of my tour de force. Sorry it's so long. Let's help clarify my thoughts. All right, take care. Bye.